For the latest top tips, reviews and advice, please subscribe below.
Hello and welcome to Attwoolls Outdoors with me, Mike. Today I'm giving you a bit of a review video on a very exciting product from Zempire. So with me here today I've got the Zempire Monstabed. So the Monstabed is kind of almost like a complete new concept really, and it's kind of solving a problem we're seeing definitely in the market with a lot of people using sort of like actual camp beds and then wanting to make a bit more comfort, something that gives you the height but then the comfortability and the warmth. So Zempire have come up with this revolutionary thing where what they've done is it's a bit more complex than you think. They've actually mixed an airbed with a self-inflated mat all in one. So you get the best of both worlds in terms of a small pack size, in terms of you haven't got two things to worry about, i.e. a camp bed and self-inflated mat, or for an airbed, for example, the reliability element of it. So kind of throughout this video, we'll kind of go through why it's different to a normal airbed and also to a camp bed scenario, and talk about inflation, deflation. So we're going to kind of go into everything in detail for you guys. So to start with, it's a completely brand new kind of concept, and something actually Zempire have been working on for about 2 years now. So it's been in the footings for a while, to the extent that it's never been done before, that Zempire actually had to create a whole new manufacturing machine just to physically get this weld properly done. And it's all about creating something that's obviously decent. It will actually last, which is definitely the biggest problem with airbeds. But more importantly, it's giving that comfort. So available in a double or a single. Basically, the Monstabed, the double is about 135 wide by 195 deep. The single is 80 wide by 195 deep, so same length, I should say, not depth, but obviously different widths as well. Height, look, 42 centimeters off the ground. And what we've got here is almost like a self-inflating mat. So if you know of kind of Zempire's kind of monster mats, so it's a 10 centimeter profile, really nice sort of foam built in there, so again get the comfort, but also you've got the sort of insulation, so you're not going to be as cold as you will find. And then same kind of thing with the valve. So you've got the 360 cyclone kind of valve, so it means it's very easy to get the air in and get the air out. Now, what they've done is actually they've physically heat welded that onto an inflatable base. Now, this differs a bit to a normal airbed because what you find actually is, it's firstly the fabric itself is an outwards 150 denier ripstop material, which is really nice and rugged. But more importantly, actually, it's lined and heat welded together with a TPU fabric. Now, it's a better and more consistent fabric. What you find with most generic airbeds are they're made from PVC. The issue with PVC is that it reacts a bit more to temperature, it gets expansion contraction. Eventually, it will allow after time it will allow air to pass through, so it's not as well sealed as the TPU bed. And we know from inflatable tents with the tubes, for example, a lot of our brands who went for PVC have had issues in the past, and everyone pretty much now uses TPU. So it's almost like a light bulb moment when Zempire coming out with this and going, well, we'll make a TPU bed, and you go, yeah, it makes so much sense to actually change it to something that we know works in that. Why doesn't it work in this? So it's quite revolutionary in that sort of sense. Because essentially it is an airbed twin of a mat, you will need a physical pump to pump it up. So what we'd recommend is the Zempire Monster pump. Really quite easy to manage and use. I mean, for example, we've done a separate review video on the Monster pump. Took me about 2 minutes to pump the bed up as well. You can use this for basically the main bottom base, and if you really want to, the top section as well. One of the big sort of selling points really of the Monster, I think, is it gives you the height but also the comfort. The problem you find with a lot of airbeds in general, certainly with sort of the higher rise ones, is you've got to pump it up to a certain pressure. Normally the pump's about 0.7 psi, it's not a huge amount of psi, but it's very firm on top. And the problem is because by getting a really rigid structure, it means it's not necessarily comfortable to sleep on, because then you are literally on top of a solid bit of air. The joys of this is because you've almost got two chambers, a lower chamber which can give you sort of real kind of solidness to it, and the top layer you can then alter to your comfort level, make it more spongy, or you can really pump it up to the max. Again, you've got more flexibility with kind of how you want to sleep. And honest to God, it's definitely by far the most comfiest thing I've kind of slept on. I mean, what I've done here is I've pumped the top part of it up with the actual pump itself, and then I've used the single where I've inflated fully the base, and then just used the natural self-inflating mat to kind of bring the foam up to its perfect level. And it's amazing how much kind of comfort that is. And one thing, again, even with a double, one of the things you find with airbeds as well is because you've got when one person moves, the other person moves as well. By taking that, the way the mat's constructed with also the foam, you don't tend to have that same kind of difference. And again, from a stability point of view, if someone's kind of jumping on it, it's obviously quite reliable in that sense. But you get the height, and like I said, you can still get to the edge of the bed, even though the top layer might be a bit softer, which you can see I go down a little bit there because I obviously took the air out of it. It still works really quite nicely. So other things to point out as well is in terms of the pack size. So pack size itself, we're looking at something that's going to be, I mean, what I've got is the monster mat here. So that's just the mat on its own. And then we've got the monster bed in kind of double. So they are very, very similar pack size, only marginally bigger. And what you find actually with the monster bed is the fact that you've a bit more of a structural carry handle than a bit of fabric. Plus then you've also got compression straps on the external side of it, but also internal side. And again, a really nice handy carry handle. So it's much easier to kind of move around. The straps itself, you have internal straps as well. So again, you can press it before going into the bag, and again, you still will have kind of a carry handle to move it with or without the bag. And the bag again is a really nice, strong kind of polyester kind of fabric. So again, it would take a lot more brunt and braces. But for me, like I said, by using kind of the monster pump, it's amazing how quickly it will inflate and deflate. The valve itself, what you can do is by undoing the valve, you've got like the 360 parts. There's like a little seal on there. Now by pushing it, so it obviously only allows air out, we can actually get the air out quite quickly. Now what you can do with the monster pump is actually use the pump itself on reverse. So what you can do, if you really wanted to get it down back to basics, is we'll just pop that on. There you go, that's a little click. We'll deflate the bottom part as well. Flip that, so it basically just obviously allows air to come directly out. That pump will actually suck on, so it actually connects onto point. You can then deflate it, and basically that's then going to kind of start sucking all the air out of it. So the pump, like I said, we've done a separate video on it really, but the bigger one you can inflate in about 2 minutes, and you can inflate the base of that one in about a minute. But the main thing is it's getting it to a really firm pressure itself, and again, sort of a nice real small kind of pack size. The thing that you find with, say, also like when you have a stretcher bed or a camp bed, for example, and you put a mat on top of it, especially with a double, you find that actually you've got the solid bar around the outside, which is great for putting up and down, but then you have one directly in the middle. Now, the one in the middle is probably the biggest problem, because what you find is that certainly if there's two of you, or if you like a big double bed to yourself, you can't sleep directly in the middle. And also sometimes you find you're still, with the canvas, kind of have little divots. So that way you've got this with the extra ability to still have a height, but also the comfort level throughout of it. And like I said, because that's your foam layer on a higher level up, you don't have the cold coming directly out from the ground up through it. So again, you're not literally relying on your body heat to warm that whole big pocket of air, which you would with a normal airbed. So you can see, so you see as the tone changes, the bed goes in like so. So again, packs down really nice and small. We can use the same pump onto the main self-inflating mat as well. So you can deflate it all really quite nice and neatly. And like I say, just generally sucks the air out. So it's a really quite cool concept in that side. Other things to point out really in terms of, admittedly, I would say, even though it's a really quite cool concept in the way it's done, it's not going to be the cheapest thing to sort of purchase. So there we go. So that's that. So it's not certainly the cheapest thing to purchase. You are obviously paying for, but then if you think about a sun-flame mat and sort of a bed itself, naturally that can be quite expensive and also bulky. Because you think if you're not having to buy an airbed itself to go alongside that, your pack size overall is a bit smaller. Plus the fact, for me, from a comfort level point of view, it is a lot more comfortable. What I will do actually is we'll quickly inflate this while we're here. I can carry on chatting about it. So lock that on. So yeah, pack size for me is quite crucial, also natural for weight as well. Like I said, there's not a huge amount of difference in that, but it's a much more substantial bed. In theory, it's also going to be a much, should have hopefully a longer shelf life. Now, I see you can use this quite happily for camping. you can always use it more happily in the home. You've got guests staying over, and again, it's a bit more reliable from that point of view. And because you've got that kind of stronger external fabric, it's going to be a little bit more puncture resistant. But also you've got double skins. You've got the outer layer and also then the TPU inner layer. It's a bit more physical gauge to the actual weight of the fabric itself. It's also worth mentioning, actually, really, when you are putting it in a tent, for example, you have to be conscious because of the extra height. You may lose it on the slope of the back, so it's not going to fit in probably kind of every kind of tent you will see. You may have to rotate it around. It's no different to, again, the same principle you'd find with a high-rise airbed or kind of a. There you go. Been working it too hard. So yeah, it's no difference to kind of how much that will really kind of change. But you can see how that kind of, it is quick to inflate. I've absolutely rinsed this thing for about 12 inflations, so it's probably had its bit of a ghost, really. But yeah, need to put this thing back on charge. But yeah, that kind of gives you the idea really of it. I think for me, it solves a lot of issues. I think certainly we see a lot of times people want to spend a bit more money and get something a bit nicer. And the two most valuable things you can probably spend money on when it comes to camping is what you're sleeping under and then what you're sleeping on. And that's where I think for me the actual monster bed itself, I think it ticks a big box. Like I say, I think there's around about nearly £100 difference, maybe not quite as much as that actually, between say the normal monster mat and then the monster bed. But for that excess of height, and you'd probably easily spend 50-60 quid on like an actual stretcher bed or a kind of a camp bed. For something that's smaller, compact, built into that, and it's all in one, again, like some pitch time as well, it's pretty easy to do, and you've got the ultimate amount of comfort. And yeah, I think for me it just ticks a real big box, and certainly we'll have on display at our showroom, which you can kind of check out as well. And certainly what we do find with products we put in the showroom, we do put it through its paces and see how rugged it really is, because I'm pretty sure I think it's abused quite, substantially in the shop. Amount of wear and tear that you find with it, amount of bods who come have a play. That's kind of, it's our true test of really how good a quality a product generally is. But yeah, I mean, if you have any more questions or queries, feel free to comment in the box below. You can actually check the link below this video. It takes you straight through to our website, where we've got things like packed sizes, the overall dimensions of the beds itself, the individual features of it. Obviously, we've got also linked products, things like the Monster Pump or the Chill Pill Deluxe Pillow. There's loads of different sort of accessories you can go with it, and that's where I think for like the perfect sleep bit, that Chill Pill pillow along with a Monster bed, I think it just ticks a real big box. And a good night's sleep is, well, it's crucial, certainly when you're camping. Nothing worse than being tired, that's for sure. So hope it's been helpful and interesting. But I think for me, this is a real big game changer in kind of the sleep space, which is quite exciting to see. And I think it's generally really, really popular. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon in our next Attwoolls Outdoors video review.